sight. this creature find a home in such a cold, dark place as this? Enough. Put on some clothes. Silence will serve us well in this place. Let us take our foes by surprise.
Why do they need me to do this? We use magic.
Interviews with Tapestrists, Volume 18. Cherim's Heart of Enequina by Levilas Paris, professor at the Imperial University. Interview with Cherim, a master tapestry weaver. Contemporary with Machamat Lusine, interviewed in volume 17 of this series, is the Khajiit Cherim, whose tapestries have been hailed as masterpieces all over the Empire for nigh on 30 years now. His 4 factories, located throughout elsewhere, make reproductions of his work, but his original tapestries command stellar prices. The Emperor himself owns 10 Cherim tapestries, and his representatives are currently negotiating the sale of 5 more. The muted use of color, contrasted with the luminous skin tones of Cherim's subjects, is a marked contrast with the old style of tapestry. The subjects of his work in recent years have been fabulous tales of the ancient past, the gods meeting to discuss the formation of the world, the Chimera following the prophet Veloth into Morrowind, the Wood Elves battling Morehouse and his legions at the White Gold Tower. His earliest designs dealt with more contemporary subjects. I had the opportunity to discuss with him one of his first masterpieces, The Heart of Enequina, at his villa in Orcrest. The Heart of Enequina presents an historic battle of the 5-year war between Elsewhere and Valenwood, which raged from 3rd Era 394, or 3rd Era 395, depending on what one considers to be the beginning of the war, until 3rd Era 399. In most fair accounts, the war lasted 4 years and 9 months, but artistic license from the great epic poets added an additional 3 months to the ordeal. The actual details of the battle itself, as interpreted by Cherim, are explicit. The faces of 120 Wood Elf archers can be differentiated one from the other, each registering fear at the approach of the Khajiit army. Their hauberks catch the dim light of the sun. The menacing shadows of the Elsewhere battle cats loom on the hills, every muscle strained, ready to pounce in command. It is not surprising that he got all the details right, because Cherim was in the midst of all of it, as a Khajiit foot soldier. Every minute part of the Khajiit traditional armor can be seen in the soldiers in the foreground. The embroidered edging and striped patterns on the tunics, each lacquered plate on loose-fitting leather in the Elsewhere style, the helmets of cloth and fluted silver. Cherim does not understand the point of plate making, said Cherim. It is hot, for one, like being both burned and buried alive. Cherim wore it at the insistence of our Northern advisors during the Battle of Zeleny, and Cherim couldn't even turn to see what my fellow Khajiit were doing. Cherim did some sketches for a tapestry of the Battle of Zeleny, but Cherim finds that to make it realistic, the figures came out very mechanical, like iron golems or Dwemer centurions. Knowing our Khajiit commanders, Cherim would not be surprised if giving up the heavy plate was more aesthetic than practical. Elsewhere lost the Battle of Zelenin, didn't she? Yes, but Elsewhere won the war, starting at the next battle, the Heart of Enequina, said Cherim with a smile. The tide turned as soon as we Khajiit sent our Nordic advisors back to Solitude. We had to get rid of all the heavy armor they brought to us, and find enough traditional armor our troops felt comfortable wearing. Obviously, the principal advantage of the traditional armor was that we could move easily in it, as you can see from the natural stances of the soldiers in the tapestry. Now, if you look at this poor perforated Cathay rat, who just keeps battling on in the bottom background, you see the other advantage. It seems strange to say, but one of the best features of traditional armor is that an arrow will either deflect completely or pass all the way through. An arrowhead is like a hook, made to stick where it strikes if it doesn't pass through. A soldier in traditional armor will find himself with a hole in his body and the bolt on the other side. Our healers can fix such a wound easily if it isn't fatal, but if the arrow still remains in the armor, as it does with heavier armor, the wound will be reopened every time the fellow moves. Unless the Khajiit strips off the armor and pulls out the arrow, which is what we had to do at the Battle of Zeleny. A difficult and time-consuming process in the heat of battle, to say the least. I asked him next, is there a self-portrait in the battle? Yes, said Cherim with another grin. You see the small figure of the Khajiit stealing the rings off the dead wood elf? His back is facing you, but he has a brown and orange-striped tail like Cherim's. Cherim does not say that all stereotypes about the Khajiit are fair, but Cherim must sometimes acknowledge them. A self-deprecating style in self-portraiture is also evident in the tapestries of Ranulf Hook, the next artist interviewed in volume 19 of this series.
Someone there?
The City of Stone, A Sellsword's Guide to Markarth by Amanda Alea. A Mercenary's Guide to Markarth. If you're cutting your coins across Skyrim, you'll want to point your blade towards Markarth, the capital city of the Reach. There's no end of trouble in the City of Stone, and that means plenty of ways for you to earn your supper. Your sellsword instincts should point you towards the wealthiest patrons with the fattest purses to work for, but you need to mind...
The Woodcutter's Wife by Mogan, son of Molag. A story of mistrust, murder, and magic. Legends tell of a woodcutter who built a shack deep within the pine forest. There, he hoped to live in peace with his family. The woodcutter's family lived well for a time, but without warning, the weather turned bitterly cold and spoiled the harvest. Before long, with their meager supply of food all but gone, the family was starving. Late one snowy night, a traveler knocked on the cabin door, seeking shelter from the biting cold. Always generous of heart, the woodcutter welcomed the stranger into his home, apologizing that he had no food to offer. With a smile, the traveler cast off his cloak to reveal the garments of a mage. As the woodcutter and his family looked on, the mysterious visitor reached into his satchel and withdrew a scroll tied with a silver ribbon. No sooner had the wizard unfurled the scroll and read the words aloud, when a great feast appeared from out of thin air. That night, nobody in the woodcutter's cabin went hungry. Day by day, the snow piled up. Every night, the mage produced another scroll from his bag and read the words, each time summoning a new feast. On the fifth night, the woodcutter's wife awoke her husband to confess her mistrust of their magical guest. Surely, she argued, there was some price to pay for the magical feasts that everyone enjoyed night after night. The woodcutter would have none of it. After nearly dying from the lack of food, his family was eating well. The divines had sent them a gift, he explained, and it was foolish to question their wisdom. But the woodcutter's wife would not be persuaded. Every night, she grew more fearful and more desperate. She was certain that the family had entered into a devil's bargain, and the time would soon come when the mage would ask for something unspeakable in return for his gifts. While everyone in the cabin slept, the woodcutter's wife snuck out of bed and took her husband's axe in hand. She crept into the traveler's room and with one swing lopped off his head. Suddenly, the wizard's disembodied head awoke. His eyes opened wide, and when he beheld his maimed body, he let forth a terrible cry. Awakened by the horrifying scream, the woodcutter and his children rushed into the room and gasped at the terrible sight of the decapitated mage. With his last gasp of breath, the traveler laid a fearful curse on the woodcutter's wife. After her mortal death, she was damned to rise once again and walk the woods alone, only to burn at the rising of the sun. To this day, those who walk the pine forest late at night tell tales of a weeping woman glimpsed between the trees. She carries a bloody axe, the stories say, and is terrifying to behold.
the way you walk around at home is your own business. When you're at home.
Harry's the boss. Talk to her if you want work.
We're one of the same kind, you and I. I'm glad to have met you.
I have many important things on my mind. Your concerns are not among them.
Well, you're set.
Urag can be very helpful. Just don't antagonize him. Urag can be very helpful. Just
I hear you
don't
found some
antagonize him.
thing in Sartor. You think it could help make me a powerful mage?
Urag can be very helpful. Just don't antagonize him.
Even with the college's laid-back attitude, pleasure doing business with you. I hope you've got some coin. Let's just take a look then. I hope you've got some... let's just take a look then. All right, then.
We shouldn't have been disturbing Sarthal. Thank you, friend. It's good to know I can count on you. I suppose Master Neloth won't mind. He's always telling me to get out of his way.
If you have a moment, could you help me with something? So far, I just want to learn. We're all trying... Well, I need someone I can practice a few spells on. Nothing dangerous, really. Would you be... Oh, good. Now, you just stand there. Please hold still, and don't move. There! Now I... Oh dear. That wasn't supposed to happen. Do you feel all right? You look very, green. I am so very sorry. I went over this again and again, and I was sure it would have better results. I'm not really sure. I think it's just a minor miscalculation on my part. I'm sure it will wear off soon. When it does, you'll be perfectly fine, and then we can try again. In the meantime, I'll see about figuring out what went wrong.
Speak.
Ajit will listen until all the sugars in the world turn sour.
I'm right behind you. You lead, I'll follow.
Yes?
At least something good came out of that trip to Sarthal. I didn't find anything but dust.
Need something?
I hear you found some thing in Sartor. You think it could help make me a powerful mage?
What was that?
How well his scrolls work.
I didn't find anything but dust.
I'm right behind you. right behind you.
Azura has seen your coming, traveler. It was not curiosity, but fate that has led you here. This shrine was built by the Dunmer. As our land was scorched by fire and brimstone, Azura's prophecies led us to safety. She is a Daedra, a powerful being who watches from beyond our mortal plane. You must go to a fortress, endangered by water, yet untouched by it. Inside, you will find an elven mage who can turn the brightest star as black as night. It is cryptic, I know, but Azura's signs are never wrong. I believe the fortress may refer to Winterhold. Ask if they know this elven enchanter. She is the goddess of dawn and dusk. Azura. My people, the Dunmer, built it. Those of us who were faithful. This shrine is our thanks to. Yes, there were. But I refuse to abandon the shrine. The visions are a gift.
I'm on a
Azura
pilgrimage
warned
to the
me
shrine of
tragedy,
Azura, the
war,
goddess of
death.
twilight. In the
Before it
mountains to
happens,
the northeast.
I won't
I'll mark
be
it on your
far
map.
off. Azura, who led the children. Away from the disaster of Barden. You are the prophet that reveals our true future. Twilight guide your path.
A welcome to you, fellow traveler.
I have many important things on my mind. Your concerns are not among them.
At least something good. Exactly as I... Now, are you ready to try again? I am confident it will work this time. This will be worth it. Okay, now don't move at all. Oh my. That isn't right. Just wait. I can fix this. Oh no, that's not good at all. Let me try again.
Still here.
Need something?
This really isn't turning out the way I'd hoped. I'll get it right this time. I swear.
We shouldn't have been disturbing Sarthal, no matter what you found down there.
There. All better. Well, it all
peaceful
worked out in the
greeting
end,
to you.
didn't it? Oh, no, it hasn't. Let's be honest. I have a long way to go before, but at least I know where to start now. Thank you. You've been a great help to me. Lead the way.
I'm right behind you. Lead on.
I have many important things on my mind. Your concerns are not among them.
Still here.
I'm right behind you.
Go cast your fancy magic someplace else.
I'm sorry, could you describe the smell?
Unless you're bringing me
The
another
monster was
round.
turned inside out and then exploded. What did you do?
It was a minor miscalculation. I've already corrected it for future experiments.
This is why people have a problem with your college, Nelligar.
My days at the college are long behind me, but I prefer to stay. Dagor and I have an understanding. Who sent you? Was it the college? The Jarl? We agreed there would be no... You're working with the Daedra? Right. Now tell me the one about the Argonian maid and the lusty baron. Just calm down. I'll tell you everything. What do you know about soul gems? They are, except the gem is always consumed. They're frail, except for one. Azura's Star, a Daedric artifact that allows any... Some of us wanted to find out how. I was working under Malin Varen then. Malin wanted to alter the star. He was dying. It drove him mad. Students started... Look, I don't care who asked you to find the star, but don't take... I mentioned how the star is a... You can only store white souls in the star, belonging to the lesser creatures. Azura's magic won't allow black souls to enter it. As a mortal, Malin's soul was black, so part of his work was breaking past Azura's rules. He was close before... Well, Azura is no ordinary Daedra. She commands an... It started slowly at first. Malin was... Then one day I walked in and Malin had killed a student, and in a horrific moment of inspiration, he started using her soul. The college would agree with you, but you have any idea how... We're nothing to the Daedra. Pawns to... No. I left Winterhold for some time, and returned to stay... I still have research that keeps me busy, and being here in Winterhold ensures I have access to former colleagues.
If you've business with the college, you're up. The mages are up in the college. You can ask. Then again, Nelligar might know. He's an old-timer from the college, but he has a room here. Here, take a look at this. Some of the Jarl's men came by and left this bounty letter. I'm afraid there's not much to... You can talk to Birna Most of the business we get is from folks here to visit the college. Let's sate that appetite, huh? Until next time.
I told you what you wanted to know. What else could you want? I still have research that keeps me busy, and being here in Winterhold, my days at the college are long behind me. I mentioned how that you can only store, as a mortal, Malin's soul with Azor. It started. Then one day I walked in and Malin had killed a student, and in a horrific moment of inspiration...
Words of Clan Mother Anisi to her favorite daughter, by Clan Mother Anisi. How a Khajiit explains the origin of the world. Anisi tells you, you are no longer a mewing kitten, and you have learned to keep secrets from Anisi. And so Anisi tells you. In the beginning, there were two litter mates, Anur and Fadomai. After many phases, Fadomai said to Anur, let us wed and make children to share our happiness. And they gave birth to Alkosh, the first cat. And Anur said, Alkosh, we give you time, for what is as fast or as slow as a cat? And they gave birth to Kanarthi, the winds. Kanarthi, to you we give the sky, for what can fly higher than the wind? And they gave birth to Magrus, the cat's eye. Magrus, to you we give the sun, for what is brighter than the eye of a cat? And they gave birth to Mara, the mother cat. Mara, you are love, for what is more loving than a mother? And they gave birth to Srendar, the runt. Srendar, we give you mercy, for how does a runt survive except by mercy? And many phases passed, and Anur and Fadomai were happy. And Anur said, we should have more children to share our happiness. And Fadomai agreed, and she gave birth to Hermora, and she gave birth to Hirsine, and she gave birth to Merunes, and Mephala, and Sangin, and Shegorath, and many others. And Fadomai said, Hermora, you are the tides, for who can say whether the moons predict the tides, or the tides predict the moons? Hirsine, you are the hungry cat, for what hunts better than a cat with an empty belly? Merunes, you are the Jar Khajiit, for what is more destructive than a kitten? Mephala, you are the clan mother, for what is more secretive than the ways of the clan mothers? Sangin, you are the blood cat, for who can control the urges of blood? Shegorath, you are the skooma cat, for what is crazier than a cat on skooma? And Anur said, 2 litters is enough, for too many children will steal our happiness. But Kanarthi went to Fadomai and said, Fadomai mother, Kanarthi grows lonely so high above the world, where not even my brother Alkosh can fly. Fadomai took pity on her, and tricked Anur into making her pregnant again. And Fadomai gave birth to the moons and their motions. And she gave birth to Nirni, the majestic sands and lush forests. And she gave birth to Azura, the dusk and the dawn. And from the beginning, Nirni and Azura fought for their mother's favor. Anur caught Fadomai while she was still birthing, and he was angry. Anur struck Fadomai, and she fled to birth the last of her litter far away in the great darkness. Fadomai's children heard what had happened, and they all came to be with her and protect her from Anur's anger. And Fadomai gave birth to Lorkaj, the last of her litter, in the great darkness. And the heart of Lorkaj was filled with the great darkness. And when he was born, the great darkness knew its name, and it was Namira. And Fadomai knew her time was near. Fadomai said, Ja Khaje, to you Fadomai gives the lattice, for what is steadier than the phases of the moon? Your eternal motions will protect us from Anur's anger. And the moons left to take their place in the heavens. And Anur growled and shook the great darkness, but he could not cross the lattice. And Fadomai said, Nirni, to you Fadomai leaves her greatest gift. You will give birth to many people, as Fadomai gave birth today. When Nirni saw that Azura had nothing, Nirni left smiling. And all Fadomai's children left except Azura. And Fadomai said, to you, my favored daughter, Fadomai leaves her greatest gift. To you, Fadomai leaves her secrets. And Fadomai told her favored daughter 3 things. And Fadomai said, when Nirni is filled with her children, take one of them and change them. Make the fastest, cleverest, most beautiful people, and call them Khajiit. And Fadomai said, the Khajiit must be the best climbers, for if Master and Secunda fail, they must climb Kanarthi's breath to set the moons back in their courses. And Fadomai said, the Khajiit must be the best deceivers, for they must always hide their nature from the children of Anur. And Fadomai said, the Khajiit must be the best survivors, for Nirni will be jealous, and she will make the sands harsh, and the forests unforgiving, and the Khajiit will always be hungry and at war with Nirni. And with these words, Fadomai died. After many phases, Nirni came to Lorkaj and said, Lorkaj, Fadomai told me to give birth to many children, but there is no place for them. And Lorkaj said, Lorcage makes a place for children, and Lorcage puts you there so you can give birth. But the heart of Lorcage was filled with the great darkness, and Lorcage tricked his siblings so that they were forced into this new place with Nirni. And many of Fatomai's children escaped and became the stars, and many of Fatomai's children died to make Nirni's path stable, and the survivors stayed and punished Lorcage. The children of Fatomai tore out the heart of Lorcage and hid it deep within Nirni, and they said, "We curse you, noisy Lorcage, to walk Nirni for many phases." But Nirni soon forgave Lorcage, for Nirni could make children. And she filled herself with children, but cried because her favorite children, the forest people, did not know their shape. And Azura came to her and said, "Poor Nirni, stop your tears. Azura makes for you a gift of a new people." Nirni stopped weeping, and Azura spoke the first secret to the moons, and they parted and let Azura pass. And Azura took some forest people who were torn between man and beast, and she placed them in the best deserts and forests on Nirni. And Azura in her wisdom made them of many shapes, one for every purpose. And Azura named them Khajiit, and told them her second secret, and taught them the value of secrets. And Azura bound the new Khajiit to the lunar lattice, as is proper for Nirni's secret defenders. Then Azura spoke the third secret, and the moon shone down on the Martians, and their light became sugar. But Aoife heard the first secret and snuck in behind Azura. And Aoife could not appreciate secrets, and he told Nirni of Azura's trick. So Nirni made the deserts hot, and the sands biting. And Nirni made the forests wet and filled with poisons. And Nirni thanked Aoife, and let him change the forest people also. And Aoife did not have Azura's subtle wisdom, so Aoife made the forest people elves always, and never beasts. And Aoife named them Bosmer, and from that moment they were no longer in the same litter as the Khajiit. And because Aoife had no appreciation for secrets, he shouted the first secret across all the heavens with his last breath, so that all of Fatomai's children could cross the lattice. But Azura, in her wisdom, closed the ears of angry Anur and noisy Lorcage, so that they alone did not hear the word. Tragedy in Black, the story of a youth summoning a Dremora. A folktale from the time of the Oblivion Crisis. The Dremora looked at the young boy with disdain. He looked to be no more than 17 or 18, barely on the cusp of manhood.
You have summoned me?
Mother says I'm good with spells. Someday, I'm gonna be a wizard. Maybe even Archmage.
What would your mother know of magic, boy?
She's a wizard. She's an enchanter at the Arcane University.
Ah, another dabbler in the mystic arts. I'm certain she is barely mediocre.
You shut up! I read the scroll. I get to tell you what to do.
The Dremora was silent. Compulsion found his voice.
I want to know how to make a magic dress. I need it for her birthday.
The Dremora's answer was more silence.
You have to tell me. It's in the rules.
Freed from the previous compulsion, the Dremora answered.
First, you need a soul gem. I happen to have one, and will gladly give it to you for so noble a cause.
Really? Why do I need it?
With a hidden smile, the Dremora handed over the dull black gem.
It is not enough to cast a spell upon an inert object. Magic requires thought, intent, will, and emotion. The soul powers the enchantment. The bigger the soul, the more powerful the enchantment.
So how big is the one in this soul gem?
Oh, that one is empty. You'll have to fill it. But it can hold the largest of souls easily. Do you know how to do that?
No,
the young man said sullenly.
Let me show you. You cast a spell like this.
The tendrils of the soul trap spell spilled from his fingers and surrounded the boy. The young man's eyes went wide.
I didn't feel anything,
he complained.
How about now?
The Dremora asked, plunging his talons into the youth's rib cage. His heart beat only once before it was pulled from his chest. Quickly, the Dremora snatched back the black soul gem just as the youth died. His soul tried to flee, but it was trapped by the spell and drawn into the gem. Only black soul gems can hold the souls of men and elves.
Your mother obviously never told you. To accept a freely given gift from a summoned Dremora breaks the conjuration, freeing the summoned from the summoner. Now, let's go find your mother. After all, I have another black soul gem.
The Doors of Oblivion by Sif Ij Hidia. When thou enterest into oblivion, oblivion entereth into thee. Nai Tyrol La. The greatest mage who ever lived was my master, Morian Zenas. You have heard of him as the author of the book On Oblivion, the standard text for all matters Daedric. Despite many entreaties over the years, he refused to update his classic book with his new discoveries and theories because he found that the more one delves into these realms, the less certain one is. He did not want conjecture, he wanted facts. For decades before and after the publication of On Oblivion, Zenas compiled a vast personal library on the subject of Oblivion, the home of the Daedra. He divided his time between this research and personal magicka growth, on the assumption that should he succeed in finding a way into the dangerous world beyond and behind ours, he would need much power to wander its dark paths. 12 years before Zenas began the journey he had prepared his life to make, he hired me as his assistant. I possessed the 3 attributes he required for the position. I was young and eager to help without question. I could read any book once and memorize its contents. And, despite my youth, I was already a master of conjuration. Zenas, too, was a master of conjuration. The Doors of Oblivion by Sif Ij Hidia. When thou enterest into oblivion, oblivion entereth into thee. Nai Tyrol La. The greatest mage who ever lived was my master, Morian Zenas. You have heard of him as the author of the book On Oblivion, the standard text for all matters Daedric. Despite many entreaties over the years, he refused to update his classic book with his new discoveries and theories because he found that the more one delves into these realms, the less certain one is. He did not want conjecture, he wanted facts. For decades before and after the publication of On Oblivion, Zenas compiled a vast personal library on the subject of Oblivion, the home of the Daedra. He divided his time between this research and personal magicka growth, on the assumption that should he succeed in finding a way into the dangerous world beyond and behind ours, he would need much power to wander its dark paths. 12 years before Zenas began the journey he had prepared his life to make, he hired me as his assistant. I possessed the 3 attributes he required for the position. I was young and eager to help without question. I could read any book once and memorize its contents. And, despite my youth, I was already a master of conjuration. Zenas, too, was a master of conjuration. Indeed, a master at all the known and unknown schools. But he did not want to rely on his ability alone in the most perilous of his research. In an underground vault, he summoned Daedric to interview them on their native land. And for that, he needed another conjurer to make certain they came, were bound, and were sent away again without incident. I will never forget that vault, not for his look which was plain and unadorned, but for what you couldn't see. There were scents that lingered long after the summoned creatures had left. Flowers and sulfur, sex and decay, power and madness. They haunt me still to this very day. Conjuration, for the layman unacquainted with its workings, connects the caster's mind with that of the summoned. It is a tenuous link, meant only to lure and hold, and dismiss. But in the hands of a master, it can be much stronger. The Psijics and the Dwemer can, in the Dwemer's case perhaps I should say, could, connect with the minds of others and converse miles apart. A skill that is sometimes called telepathy. Over the course of my employment, Xenas and I developed such a link between one another. It was accidental, a result of
Malin Varen's Grimoire, by Malin Varen, Master Enchanter. A proud mage boasts of altering a Daedric artifact. Though some scoffed, some scorned, at the very notion of experimenting on a Daedric artifact, I have succeeded where the ignorant and superstitious will not even dare to try. The Black Star. My achievement over the Daedric Lord Azura, a re-envisioning, a remastering of the ultimate soul gem. It shall become the vessel of my immortality, final proof that mortals can live as indefinitely as the denizens of oblivion. The visions, the voices that Azura has sent to taunt me, while some called me mad, I knew the truth. Nothing can be held sacred in the pursuit of advancing the very nature of magic itself. Let the Daedra send their foul images into my mind. They have given me the burning desire, unrelenting discipline, to shut out all influence, all morality. My disciples and I built a new site, free of the prying eyes of those primitive minds in Winterhold Fort Ilinalta. We had been conducting a few minor experiments before our exile, some of which led to the disruption of the island, but a few enchantments have kept the ruin intact, and beneath the waters of Lake Ilinalta has been the perfect place for the final phase of the Black Star.
Whoa.
Stendar's mercy. Maybe this is my chance. It would mean cutting the star off from Azura. Only black souls would be able to enter it once we finished. Give me a minute to examine the star. I'll see what we'll need to do. These fissures and cracks aren't encouraging. Malin obviously was growing more desperate once he left the college. He did it! He actually managed to trap his own soul inside the star, but it's falling apart. It needs more and more souls to sustain itself. The star is being used to sustain Malin's soul. I can't fix it while that fragment of him is inside. He's already dead. Worse, the enchantment keeping him intact requires... If we don't do something, the enchantment will eventually fade, and the star will slip back into oblivion. Precisely. But it's not as simple as enchanting Malin away. If we were to somehow send a soul inside the star, one that was ready to overpower Malin from the inside, a special type of soul trap, placing you inside the star without fully killing you. Once Malin has been dealt with, I'll bring you back. I understand if you need some time to prepare. Let me know when you're ready. Malin's soul should be in the star. Theoretically, I'll have a magical tether to your soul while you're inside. Once you're done, it'll be as simple as pulling... Malin's soul is beyond hope because his body is dead. But be careful. If you die inside the star, your soul will be disrupted. There's nothing anyone can do for you. Okay, stand very still. This might sting. First, I'll need to grab hold of your soul. Now, take a deep breath.
Ah, my disciples have sent me a fresh soul. Why? There's something different about you.
And who are you to challenge me? I have conquered mortality itself. This is my realm now. I've sacrificed... This is my realm. I won't let you take it from me.
Stendar, maybe this... It would mean cutting the star. Give me a minute to examine the star. I'll see what we'll need to do. These fissures and cracks aren't encouraging. Malin obviously was growing more desperate once he left the college. He did it! He actually managed to trap his own soul inside the star, but it's falling apart. It needs more and more souls to sustain. The star is being used to sustain Malin's soul. Precisely. If we were to... I understand if you need some time to... Okay, stand very still. This might sting. First, I'll need to grab hold of your soul. Now, take a deep breath.
Courier's been
Ah, my disciples have sent me a fresh soul. Good. I was getting... Why? There's something...
And who are you? This is my realm.